Far out in the Tanzanian wilderness, down miles and miles of red clay dirt roads, is the Dangobesh Deaf School. One of only a few schools for deaf children in the entire country of Tanzania. There are hundreds of students who come from all parts of the country to learn and grow as students, entirely by using sign language. I had the privilege of visiting the Dangobesh Deaf School back in 2019 when I was on a trip there with the Southeast Michigan Synod. And I was inspired by the witness of the goings-on of that school. And one of the things that sticks with me to this day is the dedication of the teachers and staff in caring for those children, apparently going to any length to make sure the kids have learning supplies and food and a clean learning environment, and also pursuing financial relationships to ensure the continued growth and success of the school. Our cohort of 6 Americans had the privilege of sitting down with the principal of the Dangobesh Deaf School and a few of the teachers to talk about what the school was up to and what it took to keep things running. One of the teachers, they were mostly all women, by the way, she looked at us all with possibly the most honest and fierce and persistent eyes I've ever seen. She looked with us with those eyes and said in clear English, we would do anything for these children. Looking back into her eyes, I absolutely believed her, and I wondered what lengths she would go through for those kids and what she's already done for those kids. I imagine it was with that same intense energy of looking out for a child that we find with the mother advocating for her child in our gospel reading for this morning. As she approaches and asks, on the border of begging Jesus to heal her daughter. It's the same energy as this teacher had, I would imagine, at the Dangobesh Deaf School in Tanzania. In our gospel reading, we start off with Jesus in an argument with the temple authorities, the Pharisees, over cleanliness and defilement with eating and preparing food. Jesus says what matters most is what comes out of the mouth and not what goes in, because what comes out of the mouth comes from the heart. Jesus says, do you not see whatever goes into the mouth enters the stomach and goes out into the sewer? But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart. And this is what defiles. For out of the heart comes evil intentions, murder, adultery, fornication, theft, false witness, slander. These are what defile a person. But to eat with unwashed hands does not defile. In light of what we just heard Jesus say, what happens next in the gospel reading for us, the listeners, is a bit shocking, surprising. We've heard stories about Jesus going to the borderlands of the entire region and healing and feeding and preaching to every person, not just the Jewish people or people who have money. Jesus' love is for all people. So when a Canaanite woman, by the way, Canaanites were a similar cultural group as the Israelites, but slightly different. Mark's gospel calls the woman a Syrophoenician woman. So this woman from a neighboring cultural group, likely with more Greek ancestral roots, she approaches Jesus and asks him to heal her daughter from a demon. And in response to her request, again, shockingly, Jesus' response is nothing. Jesus says nothing in response, at least at first. And having heard what he just said about what comes out of the mouth that defiles and not what goes in, it was also surprising to the disciples to witness Jesus ignores the pleas of a woman clearly in great need. And what happens next is even more perplexing. And we're not entirely sure why Jesus responds in this way whether to prove his argument with the Pharisees or for some other reason, because of his broken human nature. Jesus finally says to the Canaanite woman, "It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." Now, to call someone a dog in Jesus' day was one of the most terrible insults anyone could use. But whatever comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart. Right, Jesus? Looking back at Jesus with those fierce eyes, the same eyes I saw in the female teacher's eyes at the Dongabesh Deaf School, the Canaanite woman fires back at Jesus in a gentle and loving way. "Yes, Lord. Yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Echoing the same words from the teacher at Dongabesh, we would do anything for these children. The interaction that we witness here between the persistent and faithful Canaanite woman and Jesus ends with Jesus saying, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." While Jesus is a bit slow to come around and follow through on what he just preached to the temple authorities about purity and cleanliness, Jesus might reveal his own struggle to us. And in the midst of that struggle and ultimate fulfillment of his lesson on what comes out of the mouth that defiles, when he calls the woman a dog, but despite all this, Jesus comes to realize that even she, a Canaanite woman, qualifies to receive God's unbounded grace. So he heals the woman's daughter in a show of universal love for all of God's people. And with a moment of hesitation and doubt on our end, Jesus comes around to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. Jesus follows through, even in an unsavory way, on what he just said to the Pharisees. Now, for me, in reading this text this week, there are two things that stand out about this story to me. The first is Jesus' initial stonewalling of the Canaanite woman, giving her the cold shoulder. And when he does speak, he insults her. To me, this shows Jesus' human brokenness, the ugly, sinful side that all of us carry within us, to show us the struggle that all of us might experience when it comes to loving someone different from us. We want to think that Jesus was perfect, but he was also a human, and humans aren't perfect. The second thing that stands out to me about this text is the Canaanite woman's persistent faith to lean into Jesus' insulting words, to ask him again if he would heal her daughter. And hearing her words and looking into her eyes, Jesus heals the woman's daughter. For us today who are hearing this lesson in real time, we are faced with the moral dilemma of how we respond to genuine need in the world. When we are faced with someone who looks different from us, who speaks different from us, who comes from a different place, someone with genuine need asking for food, or when we see a refugee family on the side of Washtenaw Avenue with a cardboard sign asking for food for their family, how often do we ignore and simply drive on? Or when a friend on social media asks for money for their GoFundMe account to help pay the health bills of a family member, how many of us keep scrolling on? All those times we've seen real need in the world and just ignored it, given it the cold shoulder. I know I've done that plenty of times. And I don't know about you, but I've never called a person a dog, but I have lied about not having cash on me when someone asks, or lied about not having enough time, or whatever it is. I've made plenty of excuses over my life and justified ignoring that need in front of me. I have failed plenty of times to not live out my own sermons. It is tough to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. All of us have failed at one time or another. We can't fix all the problems of the world, right? When we think about the extent of just how broken the world is and how much need there is out there, it can be a bit depressing. It's hard to know if or how or to what extent we can help. And in the end, we might come to the same conclusion. The conclusion that there's no way that we can heal every illness or feed every child or shelter every person who needs protection. But that's just it. Maybe for a minute, Jesus' human side had those same exact thoughts. Maybe Jesus was thinking, I'm tired. I need to save my energy for the people I was sent to serve, the people of Israel. Or for a moment, Jesus had a scarcity mindset, that there's not enough to go around, so I'll just ignore this woman and hope she goes away. But it was something about her. It was something about her tone of voice or the look of persistent faith in her eyes that Jesus was swayed to heal her daughter. Yes, even Jesus needed persuasion to help someone he didn't expect he thought he would need to serve. But Jesus comes around. Jesus does what he said he would do, and he heals the demon-possessed daughter after all. It just shows the amount of strength that he does have, and openness and compassion in response to the needs of the world, even needs of people he didn't or want to expect. Jesus heals them anyway. Jesus heals all of us. So, turning now to ourselves, it's worth asking the question, when we're expected with the needs of the world by people who are different from us, what is our response? What is our answer to other people's prayers when we might have a solution then and there? What's a few moments of our time or a few dollars from our pockets? Now, the Dongobesh Deaf School in Tanzania is still in need, as there are many similar schools across the entire world. There's no way that Emmanuel Lutheran Church can fulfill all the needs everywhere. But every little bit helps. And honestly, I'm not sure what the solution is to poverty and inequality, and what the solution is to help the Dongobesh School in the best way. But if you would like to learn more about the Mbulu Diocese and our partnership with congregations and schools in Tanzania, please don't hesitate to contact me or the Synod office to learn more. I can connect you with the Southeast Michigan Synod, and perhaps Emmanuel can continue our pursuit of a direct partnership with one of the congregations or schools over there. A colleague of mine, her name is Pastor Jennifer Phelps. She offers her own reflection on today's text. Pastor Phelps writes, "There is comfort knowing that even Jesus' moment of humanity will not get in the way of the gospel. Jesus' humanity does not have the power to stop the relentless outpouring of grace. Jesus is changed by the woman's courageous outpouring of despair and wit. Jesus engages her in the debate, and Jesus sets down his own ego to concede that she has proclaimed God's grace in a way that he had not yet seen or taught. Jesus receives grace as we witness his humanity capacity for growth, compassion, and healing." A little closer to home, we can both give and receive God's grace. There are many needs from our neighbors right around here in this neighborhood around Emmanuel and in greater Washtenaw County. There are many ways that you can help today or this week or this year, later this year. For one, this winter, Emmanuel has been asked by an organization called the Shelter Association of Washtenaw County to be a rotating shelter site for a month. How it works is Emmanuel would host 30 adult homeless males every night for a month, so they don't have to sleep outside in the freezing cold. We basically just need to offer space for sleeping accommodations, to keep our doors open. The Church Council will meet with the Shelter Association soon to discuss details and if we qualify to participate. But if we do qualify, what a great way to walk the walk in a new and different way than we already do at Emmanuel. There are even still other ways to help our neighbors. Most people know about the food pantry and clothes closet, but we're always in need of more volunteers if you have the time. You can find out about these opportunities in the bulletin announcements. And if you're feeling yourself or your family member is in need, please reach out to your Emmanuel family. I personally witnessed over and over again this congregation come together to help person after person, family after family, with many varying needs. Now, hear me, and I mean this. If you need anything, just let us know. And your need will be met, I guarantee it. Now, before I conclude, I want to mention this picture on the TV monitor today. And I think it's true at the Dongabesh School as it is in our gospel lesson. And among Lutheran church bodies, not only in Tanzania, but here in the United States and around the world. Women are oftentimes the fiercest advocates for people in need, especially children. Women are so often the glue that keeps entire communities together. In the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Tanzania, or ELCT for short, in Swahili, as you can see in the top, the acronym is KKKT. So Wanawake KKKT means Women of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Tanzania. And it's a similar group to the women of the ELCA, which Emmanuel has had its own chapter over the years. The women of the ELCT do so much work for the church, from clothing ministries to housing fundraisers, to keep things running in the congregations and schools. The women are the glue that keep things together. The women, probably just as much or more than the men, walk the walk and do the actual work. So friends, we are inspired to follow these women. And we're called to follow Jesus, to walk the walk. To look back at those eyes of genuine need and persistent faith, and to respond with love and service. To be advocates for others. To be generous. To give what we can. And to always have love for people, and not disgust or hate. To offer God's love and compassion more than a cold shoulder or insults. Friends, we're called to find the love of Jesus in our hearts because God knows it's there. If Jesus can be swayed to help someone, we can be too. Thanks be to God for Jesus, who shows us the way to love and serve all of God's people. Amen.